Hello everyone, it's Command Block Kid here, and today I'll be showing y'all how to use comparators in Minecraft. This will work in both Bedrock and Java editions, and will work on several older versions of Minecraft Java Edition. Let's go get started now. To get a comparator, you're going to need 3 pieces of stone, 3 redstone torches like so, and 1 piece of nether quartz, which can be obtained in the nether. When you place one of these down, it's going to face away from you. You can tell that it's facing away from you because these 2 torches here, these are the back torches, and they're connected with this red line. This torch here, this is your front torch, and this is technically where everything comes from the output. This is your input side, the rear, and this is your output, like so. There's also a small mini arrow that you can just kind of see right around where my cursor is, yeah, right around that area. Difficult to see, but you'll know that that's the right direction that you're going in. When you place down a comparator, by default, it will be in what's called compare mode. Compare mode is basically where it takes a signal from its back, aka the base signal, and compares it to either side on it, whichever side has greater power. So if I flick this lever, for instance, the base signal currently getting outputted is a 14 and is powering that piston over there. If I turn on the left side, it's going to continue outputting the same 14 because the 12 is not enough to overcome 14. However, if I flick this off and I flick on the right side signal, it has a signal of 15, which overrides the 14, and the rest is history. The piston does not get powered. And one thing to note though is the sides, they do not combine. The comparator basically takes whichever side is the greatest and uses it against the back side. So without further ado, we're going to get into the second mode of a comparator, which is called subtract mode. You can access subtract mode by right clicking on the comparator, and you'll get this little torch here to light up. Alright? The front torch will light up when you right click it or left trigger it or whatever, you hit the use button, and when it's on, it's in subtract mode. Basically, it takes a base signal from the back. Again, we're using a base signal of 14. We have a left side signal of 12 over here. If I flick that, it's gonna take the base signal, which is 14, subtracted by the left side signal, which is 12, and you get an output of 2. Now, if I flicked this off, and I flicked the right side, this is set to 8, alright? So 14 minus the 8 over there, it sends out a 6, which is just enough to power this piston here, but can't quite reach over there. So if we were to have both of these on, again, just like with the compare mode, it's going to just basically take the greater signal and use it accordingly. Comparators are useful for those kinds of mathematics, whether it be comparing stuff outright or subtracting stuff. But they can also be used for a lot of other things, primarily with measuring stuff. That cake over there, for instance, yeah, right there. That can get measured. So can this lectern, shulker box, and literally almost everything else on this list. There are a few that cannot get measured, but we'll get to those in a bit. We're going to start off with the lectern and how those work. The lectern can output a max signal of 15, which will reach this piston here, but only if the last page of the book is visible. So in Bedrock Edition, because you can see 2 pages at a time, I have it set to page 30, and I just have the word test written here, just, because why not? But if you're in Java Edition, you would have page 15 set. Alright? And that would be your last page, and yeah. But you can technically go all the way up to 100 pages, and the comparator will do all the math for you, and the percentage of how far along has the book been progressed, and that kind of stuff. So each page, depending on how much is written in the book, will be worth a certain amount of percentage points to the comparator. Next up, we got a shulker box, and these things work with a max signal of 15 being produced from it right now, and it is filled entirely to the brim with totems of undying. These are non-stackable items, and As such, they technically count as a stack because you can't stack them or anything like that. Now, if you were to replace these with stacks of eggs or stacks of stone, for instance, it would work with the same output. It all just depends on how much of the shulker box is completely filled up in terms of percentage points to the comparator. Again, the comparator will do all the math. Next up, we've got the smoker furnace and blast furnace. I almost said comparator. They work all the same way. You have something in the fuel slot, something in the top slot here, and then you need the output slot entirely maxed out. And each slot is worth 5. When maxed out fully, is worth 5 produces 5 of the redstone signal. So all 3 of them are completely filled up, and as such, it produces a signal of 15, and boom, you have your piston powered. Jukeboxes are one of the weirder ones. The signal strength actually depends on the current disc inside of the jukebox. Currently what's in there, I think, is other side or something like that. But anyways, if you were to put in music disc 13, you'd get a signal strength of 1, which would just be right here. You wouldn't really get far. Cat equals 2, blocks equal 3, chirp is 4, far is 5, mall is 6, mellow high is 7, stall is 8, strat is 9, ward is 10, music disc 11 equals 11, duh, and weight is equal to 12. Now, in the Java edition, pig step is 13 and other side is 14, but in Bedrock edition, both other side and pig step are worth 15. So in Java edition, you can have a max signal strength of 14, but in Bedrock, you can have 15 for your max signal strength. If you're in creative mode, you may notice a pattern. If I just type in music disc, what I just said for the list corresponds with all of these. So the first one gives only 1 power, and so on. So it's a way to help you remember if you're stuck and you need to have a quick way of remembering that. That's one of the quick ways to do it. Barrels work basically the same way as shulker boxes. They've got the 27 slots, and depending on how full the barrel is will depend on how far the signal strength will go, up to a maximum of 15 blocks powering this piston right there. The cauldron can only produce a max signal of 3 because it only has 3 water levels. Now this can be detected with, water, lava, potions if you're on bedrock, that kind of stuff. But regardless of what you put, it only outputs a signal of 3 if it's full completely. Hoppers, even though they've only got 5 slots, can produce just as much power as a barrel and a shulker box. Each one of these filled up, if all of these are filled up to the max, it outputs a signal strength of 15, which powers that piston over there. But if you take out one of these beds, the signal strength goes down to 12. If you put it back in, it goes back up to 15. So each one of these slots that are filled completely to the max adds 3 to the total redstone strength. Brewing stands are pretty complex and are difficult to max out to the full 15 range, but it is possible. You're going to need 3 awkward potions, or any potion besides water, a stack of nether wart, and 65 blaze powder, because 1 is guaranteed to go down into this slot here if you haven't put 1 in there already. So it is a bit difficult to get to this point, but it is possible to. Each one of these slots represents 1/3 of the redstone power, so it works basically just like a hopper, just a lot more weirder. So if I remove this one, the signal strength goes back down to 12. If I put it back in, it goes up to 15. You get the gist of it. Composters are also kind of weird. They work similar to cauldrons, as they have 8 levels technically, and it basically just goes up to a signal strength of 8, which powers this piston. But when it's maxed out, as you can see here, this is the bone meal phase, and that's where it goes up to the signal strength of 8. When it's at 7, you'll notice, right when you fill it up with seeds or something like that, when it gets to that top layer here, it will stay like that for a second, and then it will become harvestable bone meal. And in that split second where it's not harvestable bone meal, it only goes up to 7. So it's useful for creating something that requires something to be open for like a split second, like an iron door, granting access to a secret room or something like that. Droppers and dispensers, they work kind of like the rest of the barrels, shulker boxes. You get the gist. But they've got 9 slots, alright? So once all of these are filled with non-stackable items or maxed out stacked items, you get the full signal strength of 15. And again, comparators measure based on a percentage basis. Chests and trapped chests work basically the same way as the rest of the stuff back there, except that they can vary between sizes. This is only half full, but this is what a normal chest completely full would look like, and this is what a large chest half full would look like. So even though they've got the same amount of items, again, the comparator takes how much is in here and it gives it on a percentage basis. So right now 50% of this chest is full. So it would output somewhere between 7 and 8, right around here. But this is, in this case, the hopper or the comparator here, it's reading at a complete 100% full on this trapped chest here. So it sends out a signal of 15, powering this piston right here. Ender chests are a bit weird. They don't work, obviously. You can't detect how much they're full. Even if there's stuff in here, they don't work. That stuff can't get detected because each ender chest is different for each player. What I mean by that is each ender chest for players, it's completely unique. So it could be different for me. It could be different for one of my friends. It could be different for, it's different for every user. Minecarts with chests are a little harder to use. You need a detector rail facing into the comparator right here, but otherwise it works basically just like a single chest and a barrel and all the other ones. You max it out completely, it sends out a strength of 15, which can power this thing right here. Now we've got cake. This is probably one of the least things you were expecting to see on this list that actually work. Alright? But cakes only output a max signal of 14, which can reach this piston here, but if the piston were placed a block further, the redstone wouldn't be able to reach it. Each slice that it has been uneaten is going to add 2 to the total strength for a total max of 14, because there are 7 slices in a cake right now. Farmland, while it may seem like you may be able to get it to work, it does not work, unfortunately. You cannot measure the state of growth for something like beetroots, seeds, or anything like that. It does not work. Although it would be nice if it did, because then it would make automating farms a little easier. Beehives. Probably something you wouldn't be expecting to see on this list for actually getting it to work. Bee nests have have 5 different levels of honey. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. When it reaches 5, it will send out a signal of 5. Alright? That's the max signal it can send out. If it's only got a signal of 1, or if it's only got 1 level of honey, it'll only send out a signal of 1. For each level of honey that's currently in the hive or nest, it adds 1 to the total strength of the signal for a max of 5. Command blocks are measured by something called a success count. If they successfully execute a command or find something multiple times, they'll have a higher success count, but for most commands, the comparator's only gonna output a signal of 1. So commands like the give command, it's only gonna output a signal of 1 per entity that it is able to give something to. Now, if you were to do something like a test for command for testing, I don't know, items on the ground, depending on how many there were at the time you ran the command, would depend on how many or how strong this signal would get. So each item that it can find in this instance, like redstone comparator, cake, water bucket, you get the gist of it. Each item that it finds will add 1 to the total success count, and thus adding 1 to the total strength of the signal up to a max of 15, where it powers this piston right here. This right here is a respawn anchor. Alright, I have surrounded it in obsidian because I already blew it up once and I don't want to blow it up again. But basically, the comparator will detect a signal from it when it has been charged up. The first time you charge it, the comparator will output a signal of 3. And for each subsequent charge, it will add 4 more to the signal, up to a max of 15. Do be careful when you measure this in the overworld. This is more practical to use in the nether than the overworld. Because if you try to use it in the overworld, you're gonna die, because it explodes. Item frames can also be detected by comparators. It all depends on the item that's in the item frame and its rotational status. As you can see, this is the default rotation for an item. It matches the one in an inventory, for instance. But each time I rotate this, it adds a signal of 1 to the signal strength, up to a max of 8, because this thing right here, the item frame, can only output or send out a signal of 8 because it has 8 positions. This is an end portal. I think we've all seen these before. Basically, you have this on the ground. If it does not have an Eye of Ender in it, the comparator doesn't do anything. It doesn't detect anything. If you put an Eye of Ender in here, it sends out a max signal strength of 15 all the way out to this piston right here. So it's basically an if this is in, do that. If it's not, then do nothing. It's as simple as that. Now, if we take to the skies for a moment, you can just see how many things comparators can actually measure or detect. There's a lot, as you can kind of tell. If there's anything that I have missed or didn't cover, for instance, please let me know in the comments. I am aware that there is no minecart with hopper. It basically works the same way as a hopper, but it requires the detector rail facing the comparator. But other than that, if there's anything else that I missed that can get detected, please let me know in the comments so that I can remember if I ever do a video like this in the future that is possible. That basically concludes the tutorial. If you have any questions, comments, or the like, please drop them in the comments and I will do my best to get back to you. I may or may not be able to, depending on how busy I am. I will do my best to respond. If you like this video, please give a like, and if you want to see more content like this in the future, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope you have a good one. Bye!